The Lord gave a commandment that a temple should be built to his name. It seemed almost impossible for so poor a people to build such a temple in their poverty, but the Lord never requires more of men than they can perform if they will go to with their might and trust in him. At the conference on the 6th of April, I witnessed the laying of the cornerstones of the temple, which was done according to the order of the priesthood. An immense crowd of people were present on that occasion, all filled with joy and rejoicing. The temple progressed with the saints that could work at it steady. The prophet Joseph worked with his own hands, quarrying the stone for its walls when his enemies were not pursuing him. No man knows what he suffered through persecution. Joseph Smith did more for the salvation of the human family in the short time that he lived than any other man that ever lived in the world, Jesus Christ excepted. He lived to be 39 years old and endured a continued scene of persecution and oppression from the time that the angel of the Lord appeared to him until the time of his death. He bore testimony to the work of the Lord through life and sealed his testimony with his own blood. I have been with the prophet Joseph and heard his instruction weekly and sometimes daily. The last time I heard him speak in public, he spoke to the legion, Nauvoo Legion. After telling what he had passed through and what he had suffered from men because he preached the gospel of Jesus Christ, he said, "From my boyhood up to the present time, I have been hunted like a roe upon the mountains. I have never been allowed to live like other men. I have been driven, chased, stoned, whipped, robbed, mobbed, imprisoned, persecuted, accused falsely of everything bad. I have suffered till the Lord knows I have suffered enough." The teaching of the 12 was to build the temple and finish the work that Joseph had begun. The people were obedient to counsel and exerted themselves to do all they could do to accomplish the work. Our enemies were not satisfied with what they had done, so they continued their depredations. In the small settlements in the country, the mobs collected, drove our brethren from their homes, burned their houses and grain, and killed some who could not get out of the way. In the fall, the mob collected in the south part of the country, and in about 2 weeks they burned 200 houses to ashes. The inhabitants had to flee to Nauvoo to save their lives. A great amount of grain and property was destroyed, cattle and bogs were stolen and killed almost without number. Old Father Durfee was shot and killed by the mob while he was trying to save his property from the flames. Many others died from exposure after being robbed and driven into the wood. Their sufferings were so great that they could not endure it. The saints gathered into Nauvoo, labored and toiled to finish the temple. Our enemies at the same time were planning to drive us from our city and from the United States. In the fall, the temple was dedicated to the Lord, thus far completed. Prayer, pronounced by President B. Young. The building was finished with the exception of a little inside work which was done during the winter. Most of the saints, men and women, had the privilege of receiving their endowments, learning the order of the priesthood, the fall and redemption of man in the temple in the city of Joseph. Nauvoo was called by that name after the death of Joseph. I think it was in the month of January that I and my brother Charles received our endowments. The building was filled up in the nicest style. It was built according to the pattern that the Lord gave to Joseph. It was accepted of the Lord, and his holy angels have ministered unto many therein. And now, because of persecution, we must leave it. And in leaving it, we leave a monument of our industry, which was reared in our poverty. It was the finest building in all the western country. At the west end, about 100 feet from the ground, was the following inscription in large gold letters. The house of the Lord, built by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, commenced April 6, 1841. At the east end of the house inside was arched the following sentence: "The Lord has beheld our sacrifice, come after us." From the diary of John Pulsipher.